to that, because you asked me what is not changeable. What are the principles? And these are principles on which there is a consensus among the Muslims that these are the principles. Now you have the daily life and the way you deal with the surrounding culture. And we have to go from on the defensive to something which is self-confidence. How am I, or could I, be at the same time a Dutch citizen and a fully Dutch citizen and a fully Muslim? Is this possible? Hundreds of thousands of Muslims are showing you every day that they can. Now we can take problems and say, because we have this problem, it shows that they can't. And what they are, facts and figures, I told you, facts and figures are showing that the great majority of the Dutch Muslims don't have this kind of problem. It doesn't mean that we don't have to touch this problem, because this problem could create this sense of suspicion and fear. So now we have, on some of the issues, for example, things that are coming from within the Muslim communities that are responding to this. For example, you don't greet a woman, or a woman don't greet a man, and these things. This is one opinion coming from one trend in Islam. But the great majority of the Muslims now, they don't have a problem with this. So you can use the marginal opinion to shed suspicion on all the others, or look at the others saying, this is not a problem. For example, for a woman or a man, because once again, we always talk about women, but for a man or a woman not to go to a doctor who is a man or a woman, this is one opinion, this is one trend. The great majority of the Muslim scholars are saying there is no problem in medicine for a woman to go to a man. It's a question of competency. Competence. So this is it. So we have other opinions. The point is that now you will always have such problems today. Why? Because you will always have new immigrants coming to the country. So you can use the new immigrants to shed suspicion on all the old citizens, or you can do exactly the opposite, is to use the old citizens to help the new immigrants. Now for things like swimming pool, for men and women, by the way, it's not only for women, not only for girls. This is something which has to be discussed within the schools. Why? Because it has to do with something which has to do with modesty. It has to do, some girls are telling you, or some men are telling you, this is something which is, I want to go to the EP for, physical education and all this. When it comes to swimming pool, there is something which has to do with modesty. Can we talk about it or not? Is this our being Dutch going through this, or is it a way for us to have a discussion on this? Many societies in the States, in the UK, and other societies in Sweden, we find solution for this. Don't tell me that the whole problem of the Dutch society is swimming pools for between 14 and 17.
No. But listen, two remarks. First, I think you are, in your writings, more critical of the Muslim communities, emphasize the plural.
Yes.
Than you're suggesting now, because you, for example, say there's a lack of dialogue, there's a lack of tolerance within the Muslim communities also, with regard to the diversity within the Muslim communities. Are we really accepting each other? That's one thing. Second remark would be, of course, there is in every religion, but I think it's stronger now due to historical reasons linked to migration, but there's in every religion, of course, conservatism, very literal understanding of the religion, traditionalism, orthodoxy. And I think an open society should accept orthodox believers, in essence. It's part of an open society that there's also people who are rejecting the reciprocity that belongs, in my view, to an open society. So were people with secular worldviews, on the left, for example, left radicals, who are rejecting some of the freedoms from their perspective. There are traditional believers, in the Christian churches and the Jewish communities who are rejecting, who are claiming freedoms for themselves who they are not willing to defend for others. For me, the reciprocity of an open society is based on that, in the end. But you have people who reject it, and I think as long as it was opinions and ideas, there's nothing to be said against it. Orthodoxy is part of an open society. But if a majority of a community would live according to that idea, then problems arise. I'm not suggesting that a majority of Muslims is rejecting it, but I think there's far too much us and them within the Muslim communities, too much a sense of we Muslims towards the outside world. There's as a reaction partly, but also perhaps within the receiving societies, the mirror image of that, also too much of us and them, too much an unwillingness to understand that someone who would say, I'm a Dutch Muslim, that there's nothing strange about it, or artificial, no, Dutch Muslim. So my question is simply this.